Ladies and gentlemen, welcome along to a brand new era, Season 19 of World Online Racing. For 18 seasons, we have been witnesses to fierce battle after fierce battle as drivers look to stake their claim on the crown. This season, a whole new wave of talent joins the grid, bringing fresh rivalries and competitors to the fore. Every track this season brings something different, from the gambler's paradise of Las Vegas, where rolling the dice isn't just accepted, it's encouraged, to the location of the first ever Formula One Grand Prix 74 years ago. The stakes are higher, the dreams of glory are strong, and the competition, it's nothing short of electric. And today's action is underway at the Chinese Grand Prix. It will be the location of the first Grand Prix of this season. The Chinese Grand Prix is held at the Shanghai International Circuit, which is a 5.451 kilometer circuit with 16 turns in the capital of China. It's got two DRS zones, but three essentially straights where drivers will look to take advantage. Two DRS zones backing onto each other. And so there should be plenty of overtakes teed up for all of the drivers tonight. A couple of snail sections as well, just before the first DRS zone and just after the second one. But joining me tonight is going to be... It's going to be Leopard, who is alongside me tonight. Good evening, Leopard. How excited are we for the action we've got ahead of us tonight?
Very excited. Good evening, everyone. It's good to be back once again for another new season of WOR action here. Season 19, one away from the Big 20. It's, yeah, I mean, this league's come a long way since I think it would be the days of F1 2016, I want to say. It kicked off this league back for Season 1. Yeah, obviously very much remember my racing days here in Season 5 and 6, 7, all the way through till 8 and 9 as well. But yeah, no, good to be here again, commentating another season, back here for Tier 4 this season. And yeah, it should be a good watch. There's a couple names I recognise from the F1 community. And yeah, should be a good season to cover, and I'm sure we'll learn more about the drivers, not just in this qualifying session, not just this evening in the Grand Prix, but over the course of the season. I see Kingsman just absolutely sending it into the final hairpin. We're all out of shape under braking. And yeah, first lap times are coming in thick and fast. Bella Fox only into 1:29 so far, and Kingsman, with that slide, puts the P6 in just inside the 1:30. So Bella Fox already has a nice comfortable margin at the top of the timing screens, it seems.
Yeah, and you touched on it briefly that you are a WOR champion, and you're alongside me tonight. So you can guide me through, because my racing experience is slightly less. So I'm more experienced in the comms box, obviously. But here we go. We'll go through it. And Tier 4 last season is where I mostly did a lot of my comms. So we can combine the two little bits of knowledge, the little nuggets, and we'll work through it. And all of the drivers appear to be working through their first lap times. We'll have all of them coming across the line. Micromash a little bit further back from everyone else, but Pavlos and Junkie Angle will come across the line to be the final ones to set times. Bella Fox at the moment, the only one in the 129s, and he's quite well, he's quite far ahead of the rest of the field. Most of them finding themselves in the 1 minute 30.8 region, going down from Snipes in 4th to Bramdevissel in 8th. But yeah, Bella Fox almost a second up on almost the entire rest of the field.
Yeah, it's I mean, it's an impressive margin. It's a concerning margin as well, depending on who you are. If you're the rest of the field, or if you're, no offense to Bella Fox, that's an incredible time. But if you're a neutral like us, that is quite the gap over the majority of the field that he has, and well, even over just second place AMS Nico in the Red Bull, who, if you throw the flag out very early now, will be joining him on the front row. Yeah, that's over that's 6.5 tenths of a second. That's a huge gap, and a huge marker that Bella Fox in the house has already laid down here in season 19. I mean, starts to go on, I guess. We'll see if Bella Fox can stretch that margin even further on his second run, and we'll see if any others can get closer to it on their second run as well. Let's hope, as a neutral stake, as I mentioned, that they can.
And yeah, I mean, it is a ridiculous lap time to set it down. And he claims he's only good at one track. So this is evidently the track because, 9 tenths up on 4th place, he can essentially do a Sebastian Vettel in Singapore where he won't have to come out again. He probably will do so he can improve his time, but
yeah.
He doesn't necessarily need to. I'd already be cracking out the champagne. So we'll see how the Haas goes as we head through the rest of this qualifying session. But just touching on the tracks, we've got 10 coming up this season. First one, obviously, is the Chinese Grand Prix around the Shanghai International Circuit. That's this evening, and it's also tomorrow for Tier 1 and Tier 2 action. Then we're heading to COTA for the United States Grand Prix. Then it's the Singapore. Then it's the Singapore Grand Prix. So getting a good little range of circuits. 2 night races in a row, but Singapore and then Las Vegas, followed by Great Britain, Netherlands, and Hungary before we break for Christmas. And then we come back on January the 9th for Canada, Austria, and then ending off the season, as we always should, in Sao Paulo. Feel very strongly about the fact that Sao Paulo it's a season-ending track. But yeah, a good little range of tracks, and China, a pretty solid one to start off with.
Yep, indeed, a nice opener. It's been a while since I remember an opener here in Shanghai, so nice little change up. And of course, the rest of the season, obviously we'll be at COTA next week, and then we have obviously a double street race / night race in succession with Singapore and Las Vegas, as you mentioned. Obviously, then before breaking into kind of the European section of the season. That Netherlands-Hungary double will be an interesting one. Obviously, 2 very similar tracks. Tight, twisty, non-street circuits. Classic traditional tracks. Very limited room for overtaking, but not impossible. Especially on the F1 games, I'm sure these guys will push the limits of what is possible. They always do. As Bella Fox nearly yeets into the wall into the pit wall on the exit of his second lap. So that lap's gone awry. Let's see if anyone can, at the very least, bring that gap down and make the gap at the top look a bit more respectable. Well, we have a Ferrari now in the front row. Trisquet 043 onto the front row of the grid, displacing AMS Nico by 17 thousandths of a second. The Prancing Horse onto the front row, and it's a Ferrari powered front row now at the moment.
Yeah, and then you got 2 Red Bull Honda powered. I'm not sure. It's pretty much it's a blurry line at the moment for Red Bull as to whether they're actually powered by Honda or they're powered by their own power trains. But we know for 2026 they won't be powered by Honda. That'll be my team, Aston Martin. So that'll be it'll clear things up. But we've got a couple more years to go before then. And AMS Knight, he could, as Mad Dogs displaces him on the second row of the grid, he could go back up there. He was improving in the first sector, not in the second, but he's gone back up a minimal improvement, and it's 6/10 is what he's going to improve by up into, well, staying in P5. Looking through the rest of the grid, see who's improving. Apex Chaser isn't. Triske isn't. It
Nico
looks
coming
like
up towards the final corner.
Who is that coming up?
Nico up towards the final corner. DRS
Oh, yeah.
open for the Red Bull. That's a bit more respectable. It's a 30.1 bracket. So Nico's closed the gap, and you know it's something. You know, that's the kind of gap that's. It's you can make that up within race, you know, with race pace, or by you can stick within DRS with that gap. With a gap of like, you know, half a second or whatever, that's a gap where Bella and Fox could just, you know, dump the clutch when it comes to lights out, pull the pin, and sod off, and book an early flight to Costa next week. But with the gap now down at the 30.1 bracket, Kingsman's gone to the 30.2 bracket now, so the times are tumbling and the gap is closing. We'll see if it's enough to actually displace Bella and Fox at the top of the timing screens come the end of this qualifying session. But it does give us a bit of hope that the race does have a chance of being competitive as far as the win goes. Beyond the win, you know, battle for P2 and P3, that looks entertaining as ever.
Well, I mean, to be fair, there's, what is it, 3/10 separating 5th and, well, 4/10 separating 5th and 12th. 4th and 12th, you could argue. So it is incredibly tight, and it could get even tighter. Not all of these drivers have set their most competitive lap times. Micromash, for example, is improving by 0.5 in the first sector. Although he's run off quite well. It's still a valid lap, apparently.
2018 track limits, that is.
Well, yeah, some would argue that that's the best kind of track limits. Bourbon has joined. He will be joining us racing tonight. He should have, excuse me, 3 more drivers joining us, Bourbon being one of them. No, Bourbon not being one of them. 17, 18, 19, yeah. We should have 3 more drivers after Bourbon joining us. With 5 minutes left to go in the session, it's looking unlikely that they'll set a competitive lap time. But Micromash, he's going to come around the final corner. His best time at the moment, no, he's not going to come around the final corner. He's going to come into the pits. 1:31.117 is where he's going to stay. P15 is where that puts him. I'm not sure if anyone's on their runs as they're just preparing for the final one. Yeah, Junkie Angle definitely isn't. Kingsman comes into the pits. Bella Fox, he's just trying to show off now, I think. And he's coming around the penultimate corner. It's a huge corner for overtaking, that hairpin, where you have to get a wide exit, tight entrance, and a wide exit as well. But sometimes it's difficult to do with drivers going side by side. And also, if you're was it Vern or Buemi? It's difficult to set the corner in the first place.
What the tyres falling off?
The tyres falling off.
Under braking, yeah, Buemi.
It was Buemi.
Yeah. I think, what was that, 2011?
It's a long time ago now. I want to say 13 years.
Toro Rosso days. How long ago does that feel? Toro Rosso, gosh. I might actually see, whilst we do have a little bit of let's say, intermission, if you will, in this qualifying session, whilst everyone puts on the final set of soft compound tyres. 2010 is the answer to my question. So there you go.
Yeah, I know Buemi left in 2011. Was it? Was he replaced by Ricciardo, or was that year after that?
Yeah, 2011. I don't know if he was replaced mid-season or anything, but so he wasn't there come 2012. Put it that way. Yeah. Yeah, it was Ricciardo in that Toro Rosso's Triske, all out of shape through the double left-hander in the middle sector at turns 9 and 10. It's only an outlap. I think, is it only an outlap? Or was it a proper lap?
I can't quite tell. We'll see.
Looks like he's pushing a bit, isn't he? Either way, the car looks all out of shape and not under control whatsoever for the Ferrari. DRS open, overtake on. As now we approach the hairpin of turn 14. Just under 3 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Good hairpin, very tidy in fact, from Triske up towards the final corner. I don't think, is he going to have, well, clearly not a good enough lap time for Triscate, so it's get in the pit lane quick and get out quick. Because drivers, right about now, are just exiting the pit lane. Some will even be going about starting their final flying laps.
Yeah, and Duncan has just set a time of 1:30.496, which slots him into P12. It could have easily been P11, but as it turned out, it wasn't. But then, you know, it's 0.2, and he's suddenly up there with P6, P7. It's another half a tenth, and he's up there with Triscay and Pavlos in P4 and 5. So it's the tiny margins. Pepine starts his lap as we see the Aston Martin car going through one of the S sections of this circuit. I mentioned the snail sections earlier. He's very clearly backed out of that one. But yeah, the snail sections are probably the most crucial parts, but the S's is where you can lose a lot of time if you don't keep the minimum speed up.
Yep, for sure.
And the snail section in turn 1 is generally turn 1 lap 1 is generally very, very difficult for a lot of the drivers. We've got a few of them coming across the line to start their final lap times now. Bram de Vissel, the first one to do so. His quickest lap is 1:30.742. He's followed through by Snipes. And then, well, the rest of the field is going to come through quite quickly. Triscay, though, he's decided his session is done. So has Duncan. So their best positions will be 5th and 12th, respectively. I'm expecting Duncan to maybe drop a little bit. Triscay, he could be under a little bit of threat if, well, the expected times are put in, and Snipes improving by a 10th in the first sector alone. So the expected times are coming in, for Snipes at least. And, well, we'll watch on board with Bram de Vissel, the leader, the first one who'll be setting a lap time as he comes through towards the second sector split time. We'll see what the Mercedes has to put on offer. He'll want a 2/10 improvement across the lap overall, because he'll probably want a top 5, maybe a top 4. Snipes retires from the session, so he doesn't feel he can improve. On track as well. That could. I'm not sure how that rule works for qualifying actually, but you're not allowed to do that in the race. I know that for a fact. But Bram de Vissel, he's going to come round. DRS is open. 2 more corners to go. 1 more braking zone. Well, 2, but 1 if you're ballsy enough to go through the final one without even touching the brakes. You just need a little lift, to be honest. And Bram de Vissel is improving by just under a 10th. He'll want to have found something in this final sector. Something magical can be cast by the Mercedes. And across the line he comes. 1:30.532, just behind Triscay in 5th. 0.002, in fact, behind Triscay in 5th. Junkie Angle will be the next one across the line. What sort of time is the other Mercedes able to set? His teammate went up in 6th place. Junkie Angle will find himself in 5th, although he's just been displaced as that's Knight. And then Pavlos across the line. Times are coming down. Triscay is dropping down the order. Bella Fox goes even quicker on his final flying lap, a 1:29.844. Almost seals pole position for the Haasman as everybody comes across the line to set their times. Mad Dogs will be the next one across in the Alpine. He's currently in P9. Let's call that P6 as he jumps up. Micromaster will be the final driver to complete his lap. I think maybe it's actually the other McLaren is going to follow him through. Micromash 1:30.949, and Kingsman is going to come into the pits. So that is going to be your grid for round 1 of the console tier 4 season. And yeah, I mean, it's, as you can see, Borbin joining and leaving at the bottom. It's a very, very competitive grid. We had 3 times within 100 or just above 100th of each other. So a very, very competitive session that we've just had, and that we are in line to have as we are going to head to the 5 lights for the Chinese Grand Prix. We'll have to wait and see, won't we?
Yeah, indeed. I think we'll have a bit of time, won't we? Because we'll have the lobby reset. I'm guessing that's still going to be a thing for this game or for this season. But yeah, I mean, Bello Fox definitely the man to beat for sure. You know, over 3/10 over anybody else in the field in qualifying. So yeah, Bello Fox definitely the one to watch. Definitely the favourite. That's interesting. That's very interesting. I'm not sure. not sure if that'll be the case for the actual session, but a bit of weather, bit of rain.
Yeah, it looks to be the case. We'll have a look at the race direct. It's intermediate conditions. I'm not sure whether that will translate over to the race. I'm sure all the drivers will be hoping it won't, because all the practice would have been in the dry conditions, most likely. Because, well, at the end of the day, that's what all of the drivers feel confident in. So that's what they're going to aim to practice. And I do the same thing. But yeah, we'll see if that translates over. We can watch as the drivers have a little bit of fun once again. This is always one of the best parts of the race. We've already had a jump starter, Petra Semenez. I don't know, but
Sem ones.
Sem ones. But yeah, it's probably the most
It's
fun.
always good fun, isn't it?
Yeah.
to watch all this chaos unfold in the lobby restart. Obviously, the safety car gets deployed. And yeah, we'll have a lobby restart very shortly. And
there's always one that tries to race Pepine.
Yes.
And we've got the kick Sauber taking the alternative line, 10-second time penalty. Ah, well. But he does take the lead of this race, although not anymore. Both the Aston Martins still the only ones left in the session. Well, and Apex Chase as well, but I believe he's in AI mode. Either that or he's just genuinely that slow. And we're just waiting for them to retire from the session now, so we can go to a restart and go to the 5 lights for the 28 laps of the Chinese Grand Prix circuit. There we go. Oh no, they've not both retired. Misha's been disqualified for punting himself into the wall. We're just waiting for Apex Chaser now.
Yeah, man.
There we go.
There we go. Big win.
Which means we can get going as soon as we possibly can into the 5 lights. But race predictions?
It's hard to pass Bella Fox, isn't it? I mentioned it earlier. Just after qualifying had finished, Bella Fox definitely the favourite. And look, we'll see if there's any weather to play a role. And that might alter. Well, I think if there's any weather, you can throw any sort of prediction out of the window, I think. But if it's dry, Bella Fox definitely the man to beat. And with the gap he had in qualifying, hard to look past the Haas for the win here for the opening round of season 19.
Yeah, and I mean with that banker lap, that just it could really set the tone for this weekend. And if he goes on to dominate the championship, it'll be from day dot that he does so. So it'll be a very interesting case to see if he's able to do that. But yeah, I mean we're going to go back to dynamic weather, by the way. So there's a small possibility that we will still have the rain, not necessarily going to have the intermediate conditions. We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, I mean Bella Fox, it is hard to look past him with those laps that he was putting in, because he was putting them in consistently. He put in 3 29s, and none of the other drivers were able to even manage one. So yeah, it's an impressive feat from the Haas driver. And well, yeah, the likes of Nico will be looking to challenge him. Nico going in there last minute with a clutch lap of a 1:30.1, I believe it was, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah, he did that earlier. He did that, I think, midway through the session. He couldn't quite improve on his last run. Okay. But he definitely showed that he's got a little bit to maybe challenge Bella Fox. But still, yeah, it's a huge gap as far as F1 is concerned, especially as far as league racing is concerned. That's a huge gap. To have over anybody in the field. It's over 3 tenths, bordering on 4 tenths of a second. The gap. So we'll see. We will see. Obviously, that DRS straight. Obviously, we'll have 2 DRS zones, won't we? We'll have obviously one down the pit straight, and obviously then the long back straight down on the run up to turns 14 and the kink of 15 as well. Which will play a role in how far Bella Fox can potentially scamper off down the road, if at all. And that's the only, probably the only thing that could stop him. It's just the sheer and utter power of that DRS and slipstream on this game. It's gonna play a huge role, and yeah, it might just might just hurt his rhythm a little bit, you know, especially if, you know, Nico or whoever can get in front, can break the rhythm, because that's what you have to do. You have to attack early. You can't let Bella Fox get into a rhythm in this scenario. Your best chance is at the start. Otherwise, you are relying on a mistake or literally saying, "Alright, P2 it is." If you want any chance of winning, you've got to go early. You've got to strike early. You know, try and get the launch off the line, or, you know, maybe try and attack into one, turn it tight, or, you know, if Bella Fox is turning it tight, okay, I'll take a wider line and maybe, you know, set it up through turns 2, 3, and 4. Try and get a good exit of some kind and make a lunge into 6. And saying that, you know, maybe just using a bit more battery and maybe use a bit more battery down that main back straight on the exit of 13 and make the lunge into 14. You've got to strike early, as I said. The positive is, I think, if I remember correctly on this game, like in real life, the DRS will open a lap earlier than usual. It'll be open on the beginning of lap 2, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you would be correct, and I mean that gives the drivers the opportunity to catch Bella Fox before he really runs away with it.
Yep.
If indeed that is how the race goes, it may end up being the case that he is not going to do that. But again, it's one of those things we're going to have to wait and see. And he will, if based on the lap times that they did in qualifying, he won't have broken DRS, and that will be the breaking the DRS will just be absolutely vital in this session, in this race, because once you've done that, there is absolutely no pressure from behind, because whoever's behind you will have somebody pressuring them with DRS, most likely. And if not, then the straight line speeds the straight line speeds will be so similar that you're unable to make the gains. And the gains are made in the straights. The overtakes are made in the corners, but the gains are made in the straights. And yeah, I mean, it'll be a case of who can break that DRS first, and after that they're just able to manage their own race. But they're going to have to keep one eye on their rear view mirrors as they head around at least the first couple of laps. But turn 1 is what they're going to have to traverse first. Turn 1 is turn 1 and turn 2 feed into each other, where it's just one long loop essentially, and it's called a snail, where they do turn 1 and turn 2 that you loop around, and then turn 3 is a much tighter left-hander, which will be difficult to traverse on lap 1 of this Grand Prix, especially if some of these drivers all they do is race WOR, so they might struggle with a little bit of sharpness, with a little bit of practice around turn number 1. So we may be seeing an incident in that corner. Hopefully we won't, and hopefully all 17 drivers will make it through. But if we do, then it's not the worst thing in the world, because it will throw something up. Well, something's always thrown up, because console tier 4 is so unpredictable, and it's so, well, it's just a lot of fun.
Yes, indeed, it's, yeah, you know, the start's going to be crucial. It was going to be chaotic. That's also the other thing that could allow Bella Fox to pull clear, is if those behind him, you know, if he gets the whole shot out off the line, you know, he's unscathed into one, and then he can let others behind him squabble. That could also play a factor. There's so many variables, and, you know, snail section turns 1, 2, 3, and 4, and, you know, even, you know, the hairpin at the end of sector 1 into turn 6. It's a bit of a choke point, especially on lap 1, and it'll be very easy for the drivers to get caught out and involved in some incidents, and it's definitely on the cards, put it that way. But we are nearing lights out for season 19. Should be only a minute or two away.
Yeah, no, it's something that we've been waiting for a while, and it's so good to be here on opening night. Didn't think we were going to get to do this, but to be here on opening night, because generally the PC tiers is what's done. That's waiting another couple of weeks. You'll also see me there doing tier 5, but yeah, console is what's kicking us off tonight. We've got console tier 4, which is what you're watching now. Console tier 3 is also on the YouTube, I believe. Console tier 5 as well. It was being streamed. There's something. They've got some sort of issue with it. But anyway, that's something to report back, definitely. But anyway, we'll focus on us for the time being.
Yes.
We'll focus on
selfishly.
yeah, entirely selfishly. But look, console tier 4 is much better because well, we're the ones on it, and we've got we've got
confirm.
Yeah, and well, I mean, something that I think is quite interesting and quite an interesting debate to have while we wait for lights out is this is probably they're probably within some of the best console drivers in the world, and I say this because of all of the big leagues, of the big 2 leagues that you could argue, the other one doesn't have an Xbox tier. So some of these drivers are some of the quickest Xbox drivers that there is on the scene.
It probably actually has a lot to do with the fact why everything's closed up a lot, especially in the past couple of years with the introduction of crossplay. Because you think about it, if you were to take, depending on which one, we're not going to get a chance to talk about it. It's going to be lights out. I'll let you take the lights.
It's lights. And it's action. Season 19 is underway. Bella Fox gets an incredible start. It's 3 wide right behind him with Kingsman, Pavlos and Nico. It slots into Kingsman and Pavlos as Pavlos tries to cling onto that inside line. Kingsman will get the inside for turn number 3, and he's going to try and maintain that exit. He's able to get that exit, but Pavlos swings around, and P2 is his once again. He fights back and takes the position. There's lots of movement down the order. There's yellow flags out, and it's a 4 wide moment. There's 2 Aston Martins. Misha looking to the inside. Snipes has been caught out, and he drops down the order. He'll drop all the way down to last. It's still side by side. There's an Aston Martin there. Pepine trying to get past Junkie Angle, but unable to. The 2 AMS drivers, Knight and Nico, side by side. Nico slotting in ahead of Knight, but Nico going round on the exit, and he drops all the way down. He's behind his teammate Bourbon there. But the 2 AMS drivers arguably coming together. Bram de Vissel and Josh, the latest drivers to go side by side. Bram de Vissel on top in that battle, and Josh losing out once again as Duncan gets past. Junkie Angle could get past. Both the Aston Martins could get past as Josh almost takes a trip to another country, and he's down into P13. He's exceeded the track limits quite impressively there, but he drops all the way down. It could be another move for an Aston Martin, who they go side by side momentarily, but then he tucks out. Apex Chaser is trying to fight with Nico. There's contact between the 2, a front wing off, or part of a front wing anyway, I think, for Apex Chaser. But at the end of this first lap, despite all the chaos that's happened below, Bella Fox has maintained first position.
Indeed he has, but he has Paulos who's sticking to the back of him. More importantly, Paulos on a set of medium compound tyres, only one of 3 that fitted the medium compound tyres to start this Grand Prix, so he's got a very good chance, and rather encouragingly for the rest of the field, to stick to the back of Bella Fox. He's got a bit more grip to start this Grand Prix, to aid in his chances of sticking to the back of the Haas driver. And yeah, I mean, it was Kingsman and Paulos doing battle. Bella Fox opened up a very, very quickly a 6 or 7/10 gap as the 2 were squabbling. But yeah, with Paulos on the medium compound tyres, barring any drastic mistakes here at the end of this sector, into turns 11 and 12, should be able to have DRS. A couple of incidents, obviously it was Apex Chase was the first one to go around on the exit of turns 3 and 4. Again, not quite sure what happened. Obviously Snipes got caught up in an incident as well in the middle of turn 6. I mean, they were about 4 wide, weren't they, on lap 1? Just a classic lap 1, turn 6 incident as far as the eye can see in real time. Just looking further back, we have Bram de Wiesel going side by side with AMS Knight and Bram de Wiesel. Oh, we have another car. It's Mad Dogs into the hairpin in turn 40. I'm not quite sure what happened, but Mad Dogs has also come a cropper in the early laps of this Grand Prix. Nice going to be up the inside into the final corner, and Bram de Wiesel says, thank you very much, I'll gladly take P5 and a fastest lap to go with it for the Mercedes. What that has done, it's broken the train as Triscay completely sideways through turn number 1 and 2. Goodness me, that car it's not excelled all weekend, has it, for the Ferrari of Triscay? It's just all over the shop, it seems, for the Ferrari, and it's like any moment it looks like it's going to spin. But either way, whatever he's done with the setup or however he's driving that car, it's gone up to P4, so good on him. But yeah, the top 4, as a result of what's gone on a little bit further back, they have managed to split the pack. It's going to be a leading train of 4 of Bella and Fox, Paulos, Kingsman and Triscay. And then it's anyone from Bram de Wiesel down, basically towards the back of the field or the back of the train. It'll be Apex Chaser who rounds off the train in P15. So yeah, already there's been a bit of a pack split, and we have a leading quadruple of 4 at the head of this Grand Prix.
Yeah, no, I mean, you touched on it earlier, but Triscay, well, somehow clinging onto the top group. It's 2.4 seconds now between the top few. And I mean, to get one of my awful puns out of the way, Triscay taking this weekend on the edge. He's being very risque with his with the way that he's going. Look, listen, right, I had to get it out of the way. It popped into my head as soon as you mentioned that he was taking risks, and I had to get it out there. Looking at the tyre situation, Pavlos is on the medium compound tyres. Everyone else is on the hards. Bram de Wiesel now 3 seconds behind the top group. So barring any major issues, as Snipes becomes the first driver in season 19 to retire, he retires in the pit lane. But obviously his car will come out and stop on track, and hopefully it'll disappear by the time that this train comes round. It is now a train of 5th down to 15th. The only exceptions being the top 4, Bella Fox, Pavlos, Kingsman, and Triscay, and Bourbon, who's continually having internet issues. I don't think he's rejoined, and he will be 9 seconds behind in P16. So pretty much it's only the top 4 now that are split away from this group. But yeah, I mean, Bram de Wiesel leading it. He will be looking to close, but as we mentioned before, the DRS will make that virtually impossible, because if you look at this, Bella Fox is leading, but Pavlos, Kingsman, and Triscay, they will all have DRS. Pavlos actually making a move for the lead of the race. He swings out to the inside. Pretty simple move there. And then Duncan taking the lead of the battle. So although he locks up Bram de Wiesel looking to pull alongside, but Duncan actually having a kick of oversteer, and it played into his advantage as he was able to just scare Bram de Wiesel off long enough so he could get back onto the power and stay in P5. But yeah, this DRS train, they could just be switching positions left, right, and centre, and that's what the leader of this pack has to be concerned about. It looks absolutely mental heading through turns number 1 and 2, as it's Bram de Wiesel down to Junkie Angle. Pretty much all of them able to get a tyre down the inside if they need to. Not quite yet, as it's only lap 5 of 28, but I'm sure as we get later on, the dives will get more excessive. And there's a dive there from AMS Misha on Apex Chaser for B13. Apex Chaser clings onto the position, and then further up, AMS Knight is alongside and ahead of Duncan after just taking a tight line. Duncan looking to maybe make the move back, but unlikely to. In the meantime, the McLaren and Micromash looking to get past Nico. They're hooked tyres as they head around to the end of the second sector. They're still side by side as Nico dives incredibly late. Micromash trying to hold onto that outside line. There's no contact ever since that hook, but Nico wobbling on the exit, and that allows Micromash to get the advantage. Nico tried to squeeze him to the outside off the track, but Micromash just able to seal that position. Bram de Wiesel in the meantime, losing that 5th place once again to AMS Knight. And the more fighting they do, the further back they'll go. Junkie Angle, he gets past Mad Dogs. Mad Dogs, though, with the exit, he'll look to reseal the position through turn number 16 and out of the final corner. So lap number 6 of this Grand Prix. None of the positions have really been decided yet.
No, basically from 5th down, they're just constantly squabbling, and they're still squabbling. I remember into turn 6, Bram de Vissel just put an absolute lunge into turn 6 on, I think it was Duncan, and then Knight just took full advantage of it as well, into the middle sector and put one on the Alpine as well. So Duncan got a bit beaten up this time last lap, and yeah, it's just everyone's just squabbling for position constantly in this midfield. It's great to watch. It's, oh my goodness me, Nico's all out of shape again on the exit of turn 6. That'll allow Apex Chaser to slip on by in the Ferrari. Oh, Nico's back up the inside though, into the middle sector, into turn 8. He'll have the outside though for turn 9. He's been forced off the track. It's pretty much single file through there, and he just has to slide behind. Is he going to make a lunge into turn 11, or is he going to slide behind? No, he thinks that you can't go for it. There's contact. It was late. It was indecisive, and it's a recipe for disaster. Kind of almost rule number 1: don't be indecisive. If you're gonna go for a move, commit to it. Let off the brake at the very least. Triske's getting past the McLaren of Kingsman for P3. Nice up, got back past Bram de Vissel into the hairpin as well. But yeah, Nico and Apex Chaser, just yeah, as mentioned, kind of one of the key rules. Bello Fox is actually making a move on Paulos, and has made the move on Paulos for the lead of the Grand Prix down the pit straight into turn 1. So Bello Fox, your pole man, has got the lead of the Chinese Grand Prix back. A little bit squirrely on exit, but he managed to almost fire it out of turns 3 and 4 and get a good run, and should be unchallenged into turn 6, barring any kamikaze lunge. And indeed he is untroubled, is the Haas. But yeah, briefly just finishing my point on Nico. Yeah, just if you're gonna go for it, go for it. He made the mistake of kind of hesitating. Do I go for it? Do I not? I'm gonna put my car to the inside and maybe gonna break a tad later, but then you kind of just putting yourself in a position where you're causing a collision, and your worst fears of causing the accident are coming true, and there's not a lot you can do about it. So I'm sure the stewards, if keep calling Apex Chaser once, we'll be having a look at that one, unfortunately.
Yeah,
an unfortunate collision.
Yeah, and I mean, well, as Pavlos goes for the lead of the race again, he's going to retake it. But yeah, I mean, there was likely to be a few incidents. There was likely to be a few indecisive moves, because although they are all quality drivers and probably some of the quickest in the world, they're in tier 4 for a reason. They're not higher up for a reason. And Nico, his latest battle is with Josh, and he gets passed into turn number 14, just sealing the move out on the exit. But yeah, Pavlos at the moment leading the race. He's on the quickest tyres of that lead group that now has a 4.4 second gap over the rest of the field, and it's only increasing. But yeah, the medium compound of tyre will give him this advantage at this point, and this is where he needs to break away. He needs urgently to try to break away as quickly as possible, because he's going to be on the slower tyre in the second stint of this race, in comparison to Bella Fox, Triske and Kingsman. So they will have a tiny advantage, as Bella Fox just looking for that move maybe on Pavlos, unable to make it stick. But you can see there, you can't see anymore. I'll go on board with him. Almost a fully RS tank. So he is charging and ready to attack Pavlos, who also has pretty much, they all have. They've all been saving pretty well in this first stint. And yeah, well, yeah, it's even more surprising actually, the fact that they've been able to break away so easily. But that's the DRS effect. Once they've broken that 1 second gap, it's difficult to get back in.
Yeah, for sure, as Bella Fox retakes lead. I think also the other thing, these, as Bram de Vissel fires it into turn 14 and again gets it all stopped. So good move from the Mercedes to keep on a P5. I think what hasn't helped this train from P5 down is they've been consistently squabbling all race long, so no one's got a chance to settle, to get into a rhythm and set about, reeling in the gap. But even if they did, it'd be incredibly difficult because you'd gain all that time. Or say you are gaining time through the middle sector, you maybe gain a couple times here and there. Slowly but surely bringing down that gap. It just gets all wiped out by the DRS of the car ahead. So you really do have to have a huge delta over the car ahead to really. And we've got a yellow in sector 2. There's a car off. I think it is AMS Nico, and indeed it is. It might be missing quite a chunk of that front wing. So it goes from bad to worse for our front row sitter, if I'm not mistaken, or at least was on the one of the front 2 rows. So, and yeah, I think that is going to be race run for the Red Bull of Nico. Not the start to the season the Red Bull would have wanted.
It's not the start of the season that either of the Red Bulls would have wanted, because 15th and 16th at the moment, adrift from the rest of the field, as we're going to go 3 wide for the lead of the race. Not quite. They were boring. They backed out of it, but on the exit, Triske looks to try to go for Pavlos. Yeah, they weren't quite close in.
I think they were just outbroken, but Bella and Fox was so late on the brakes, just on the outside, committed, and didn't let anyone get by to take the lead of the Grand Prix. They're just outbroken by the Haas driver. I didn't really see any kind of, at least obvious signs of anyone backing out. It was great defending from the Haas of Bella and Fox. Paulos, I noted a couple laps ago, he seemingly got it a little bit more back together, but it just felt like those mediums were slowly but surely maybe going off a touch. You can certainly tell that Bella and Fox had a little bit more grip in the tank, especially through this middle sector. Just looked like he could turn it a little bit tighter through some of these corners, got the power a bit earlier as well. Looked a little bit more planted. So we'll see if Paulos is going to be in anytime soon. Of course, with Paulos being on the mediums, he's going to get a huge undercut, or at least you'd think so. He's going to get a huge undercut. So he'll get a bit of a gap there, but of course, he is going to be left a little vulnerable on a harder compound tyre later on in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, and well, yeah, he will get the advantage of the undercut, and it is an advantage, but it typically is an advantage, but he will have the disadvantage of being on the harder compounded tyre, and that could spell the end of his competitive race if he isn't able to take the advantage as he drops down. Yeah, he is going to come into the pits. Lap 11 is when the Williams boxes, and he's going to switch on to the presumably a set of the hard compound tyres. Micro Mash is also in. Apex Chaser, I'm expecting. Apex Chaser is also in, yeah, but nah, yeah, that's boring. He could have done that. Josh retires from the session. That he's going to be the second retirement, the second Sauber retirement, which makes it an even worse weekend than the one that the Red Bulls are having. But yeah, Snipes and Josh, a double DNF for the Kick Saubers, both in the pits. They could have both continued, but Pavlos 6 seconds now off of AMS Misha at the back of the grid at the back of the group in front, and he'll be hoping to fight forward.
Yeah, crucially for Paulos, clean air, 5 seconds worth of clean track ahead of him, and then a further 11 after that. So Paulos in a lot of clean air to make use of this undercut. Triske, might have to use the pun, playing a risky game with that 1 second buffer, 1-1 between us now, for that DRS. Has he got it, or is he just about lost out? I think Bellero Fox, at least for the time being, has broken that 1 second barrier, but Triske is just going to absolutely yeet the ERS. Kingsman's going to yeet the DRS as well. A little bit wide though, as he takes obviously a tighter line to get the move done. But I do think Kingsman is going to be able to get back that DRS, and the McLaren is just going to hold on for the time being. But crucial laps as we approach the midpoint of this Grand Prix. Can Bellero Fox pull the pin? Goodness me, Kingsman! Sideways through turn 1. That McLaren looked to step for the wall, well, any wall, he could have just easily overcorrected or gone the, snapped the other way. Somehow, he's kept that thing facing the right direction, and also somehow he's not lost any time from it. In fact, he's gaining time. Is the McLaren gap down to half a second as we exit Sector 1 and begin Sector 2 here on lap number 12. Goodness me, that was a huge moment for the McLaren.
Yeah, and well, I mean, Triske's had a few of those across this race, so it's not a race of utter perfection from those at the front. I mentioned earlier that they may not be as sharp as they would be if this was later on in the season, as it is in the PC side of things. It's round 7 of the season there, but it's round number 1 here, and I'd say it's a pretty decent track to start off with. But yeah, Triske and Kingsman just having a couple of wobbles. Bella Fox, we haven't seen much of that from him. He hasn't pushed much, and Kingsman is struggling now to stick within the DRS. That will be absolutely crucial if he's able to stick within it. If he's not, then that's pretty much race over. In the meantime, by the way, Pavlos has made his way past Misha, who had disconnected from the session, so he's 13.4 seconds behind Mad Dogs. He's in 10th. He's looking to go up to 9th. And, well, he's likely to get up to 9th if Pepine, Junkie Angle, and Mad Dogs keep fighting as aggressively as they are. Pepine and Junkie Angle went side by side through turn number 14. Mad Dogs is looking around the outside of Junkie Angle. He could get Pepine as well as they head through turn number 1. There may have been a bit of contact. There was a bit of a wobble there from Pepine. Regardless, he's in ghost mode, which could see Junkie Angle try to fight his way through on the exits. Pepine opens up the door to Junkie Angle, but just slams it shut at the right moment, and Mad Dogs makes his way through.
Just about Pepin still having to defend from Junkie Angle into turn 6. He covers that one off and will keep hold of P number 8 for the time being. But yeah, this midfield battle, it's been great to watch or observe this midfield battle. You don't really know where to look. You definitely couldn't cover it all in one hit. That's for certain. There's just moves left, right, and centre, but it's towards the front of it, up towards P4, P5, P6, or whether you're looking further down towards the back end of the top 10, or even outside the top 10. Obviously, though, looking at those gaps have opened up slightly, and the trains have maybe ever so slightly split, as you can see. Of course, a couple of guys have come into the pit lane as well. Kingsman, he did have that gap down a half a second come turns 12 and 13, but that gap suddenly just shot up to a second, so I think Kingsman must have had a huge step of oversteer. Make that another one for the McLaren driver, not getting that car hooked up at all for the final corner. And Bella Fox is getting increasingly likely as Kingsman again is sideways through one. Surely that car's going to go at some point, right? It's a couple times that McLaren has protested and threatened to give up on him and let go. It's still facing the right direction for the time being. Again, looking at the ERS for Bella Fox and Kingsman. From what I've seen, a lot easier on this game to recover the battery. It's used in a much different way compared to previous games, so I'm sure there won't be too much of it. Oh, well, hello, Bella Fox with a bit of a moment. That's probably the first time we've seen the Haas blink all race, I think.
Well, yeah, all weekend, essentially, because of the fact that he was sticking in 129s. But, yeah, I mean, as the tyres wear a little bit more, the mistakes will start to creep in. Kingsman and Triske just need to try to keep the gamble free, spin free, half spin free, over at least the next maybe 3-4 laps, which is when the pit window will be likely open for the hard compound tyre runners, as Kingsman just closes back up to 3/10 behind Bella Fox, and that is the difference that the DRS can bring you. He was 8/10 behind at the start of that straight. He's now 4/10 behind as they head out of the final corner. 3/10 is the gap, and he could be making a move, possibly not close enough, because this pit straight just isn't quite long enough for a move like that, especially because it would be a gamble into turn number 1.
Mad Dogs in.
But yeah, Mad Dogs comes into the pits. Junkie Angle also comes in. So maybe the pit window is open now for the hard runners. It's an early pit from them as Brando Vissel and AMS Knight make contact between the two. There may have been a little bit of damage for Bram de Vissel as he headed through turn number 1. Just had a little bit of a kick. So did Duncan. And there was just... Or so did Knight, sorry. And there was just a little bit of contact, which hampered the progress of both of them and allowed Duncan to build up a little bit of a gap that with a wobble there. It's been cut back down, but just a little bit of contact. Nico retires, one of the Red Bulls. Bourbon, I think, is unlikely to retire, mainly because he's not in the session, and the AI will never choose to retire itself. So, at the moment, just the Saubers and the Red Bulls having a poor weekend. Of the other teams, though, I'd say they're all having at least a decent weekend, because the last running Ferrari, there's his teammates in third. The last running McLaren, his teammates in second. The last running Mercedes, his teammate is in fifth. So it's pretty split, and well, that's the way you want it to be, because then that means the constructors will be nice and close. Better a Fox, though, he doesn't even have a teammate in that Haas, because his teammate didn't turn up from the looks of things. But out of the final corner, lap number 16 begins, and the sole Haas in this race continues to lead.
Indeed, he does. Beller Fox comfortably in the lead. He's dragging a Ferrari and a McLaren with him. There'll soon to be a Williams. That'll be also out in front. Let me just see, what is that gap to Paulos? That's going to be an interesting one to have a look at. 18 seconds is the gap between Paulos and Beller Fox out in front. Paulos, you've done a couple laps on those tyres now as well. Tyre, yeah, 5 laps on those hard compound tyres, so it's going to be quite an undercut for the Williams, and we'll see how far ahead he is when everyone else comes down pit lane. But yeah, Triscate within 6/10 of Beller Fox, so not quite as on the bubble as it was a few laps ago for breaking DRS.
Yeah, he was close. He was close, but now 7/10 between Beller Fox and Triscay at the lead. For the lead of the race, surely one of them, I reckon one of them's going to take that gamble on this lap. You know, they've seen Mad Dogs, Duncan, Bram de Vissel and Junkie Angle, the Alpines and the Mercedes drivers come into the pits. They've seen that Pavlos is bearing down. He's now 15 seconds, 16 seconds even behind the pack. Nope, none of them are going to come in.
All 3 stay out.
All 3 are going to stay out, and I think surely next lap is when they're going to come in, although...
Pepin in.
Yeah, there we go. So we do have drivers in, Pepine and AMS Knight. The drivers in 4th and 5th. That was close.
That was very close, goodness me.
That was
too close, I think.
But I think there may have even been a bit of contact, but a bit of netcode as well. Micromash and Misha fighting out of turn number 14. Micromash coming out on top. P11 is where he sits. It's probably going to improve as they head out of the final corner. Misha deciding that he wants to take a trip to another continent. No, it's still P10, but 1.4 seconds. Is he going to be in the DRS of Pepine? We'll have to wait and see. But looking further up, yeah, Beller, Fox, Triscay, and Kingsman. They're the closest 3 on track right now.
Yes, indeed they are. Yeah, the leading 3. They've been inseparable near enough all race. I mean, yeah, Beller Fox obviously has had a couple of attempts to break DRS and he's going to have another one here. But again, only 9/10 the Haas can bring that gap out to. And what's looking in the midfield, it looks like the pit stop phase has split a few things up in the midfield as well. Mad Dogs, also with that undercut, now heads to train for Alpine and has nearly got a second over his teammate EXT Duncan. So that's an Alpine 5 and 6 followed by a Mercedes 7 and 8 with an RB trying to chase them down behind. In fact, hold on a minute, that's not a 6/10 gap. All 3 in, virtual set. Oh my goodness me! That's a huge error from the pole man. Beller Fox 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. We have a virtual safety car to go along with it, but Beller Fox might have just thrown this race away.
Yeah,
Unbelievable.
10 seconds is what he's picked up, and Well, that's going to be very, very difficult to bridge with Triscay and Kingsman now. Kingsman dropping down the order. He's in P7 behind Mad Dogs, Duncan and Junkie Angle. So something's gone wrong for the McLaren, which sees him drop down the order. But yeah, we're back to green flag racing. Pavlos is going to lead this race 2.5 seconds ahead of Bella Fox, and it's that DRS. It is that DRS that will be crucial. Whether Bella Fox can make it back into that, that's all he'll need to do, really. And 1.6 seconds behind. He is actually closing 1.4. So Bella Fox is on an absolute mad one here. And if he can drag Triscay along with him, then Pavlos' strategy could not work. If he's unable to drag him along, as Triscay is now not in the DRS, and he picks up a 3-second time penalty. So this race, in this lap, just this lap alone, has been thrown completely on its head. We've seen the 4 contenders for this race that have their own separate issues. Pavlos so much slower than Bella Fox and Triscay on the restart. Bella Fox with a 10-second time penalty. Triscay with a 3-second one now, and Kingsman struggling off the virtual safety car restart finds himself battling with Junkie Angle for P6.
Oh my goodness me! It's a catalogue of errors. One each from what was he leading through? Here comes Bella Fox on the Williams of Pavlos into Tier 1, so Bella Fox inherits the lead on track once again. All Pavlos needs to do is keep within 10 seconds of him. I'd probably be inclined to let the Ferrari go, just to try and tag along in some degree. I won't put it past Bella Fox, given that tyre offset and the gap he's now got on Triscay, to still be in with a shout of winning this Chinese Grand Prix here to open season 19. But yeah, you know, you had obviously it was Bella Fox with the penalty for speeding in the pit lane. Kingsman, something happened to him in that pit stop as well. And also Triscay picking up a 3-second penalty of his own. No, oh, hello Pavlos. That's gonna wake you up, mate. Through turns 9 and 10, the Williams back end steps out on him, and he's now back down to P3. He has not been able to fire those hard tyres up in comparison to the mediums, and he's dropping like a little bit of a stone. He's going to have DRS on the Ferrari of Triscay on this time around, but he's got a lot of work to do. Kingsman has got past Mad Dogs amongst all that as well. In fact, he's side by side with Mad Dogs as well. I was looking back at Duncan, couldn't even see the other Alpine and Mad Dogs side by side with the McLaren. Nearly a bit of contact under braking into 14, but they all get through unscathed. So Kingsman, whatever went on in the pit stop phase, he's responding and recovering in the best way possible. But yeah, this race could turn in any way it fancies. Still yet, lap 20 of 28. Triscay needs to stay within 7 seconds of Bella Fox. Pavlos only needs to stay within 10 of Bella Fox, whilst also being within 3 of Triscay. It's a fascinating finale to the race we've got. It's an intriguing one. It's a unique scenario. Do I also see clouds appearing as well in the distance?
I think you do. I think... Well, we'll see if that makes an effect on the race, because I'd say probably about lap 25 is where the drivers go, well, it's not really worth it unless the rain is absolutely hammering down. I'm sure we'll see a couple of gambles if there is rain on the horizon, but for now, we're continuing with our pretty decent conditions that we've got. It's just starting to appear overhead on the left-hand side of your screens, mostly is where the bad rain is coming. That'll be down the back straight. So I'm sure if there is indeed that rain on the way, because the clouds do look quite dark, actually. If there is indeed that rain on the way, then that could throw another curveball into this race. But tell you who has been making incredible progress. Kingsman, who after that safety car restart, I know it looks on paper quite decent because he came back from P7 to P4, but the absolute pace that he has shown has been incredible. He was so much, watching on board with him, he was so much quicker than everybody else in that little group. And now that he's broken free, he's cut 1.5 seconds into Pavlos on that previous lap. And I know Pavlos is dropping back behind Triscay, and Kingsman's probably just matching the pace, if maybe slightly exceeding the pace of the top two. But yeah, he's just demonstrating. He's showing everybody how to drive around the Chinese circuit, the Shanghai International Circuit. Bella Fox showed us how to do it in qualifying. Kingsman is now showing how to do it, maybe in later conditions, in more difficult conditions, because, well, qualifying, you're trying to set up for the perfect lap. In the race, you're trying to set up for a perfect race, so you're trying to get as good a 28 laps as you can. And now he's gained another 1.5 seconds on Pavlos in that one lap alone. The next lap, he will have DRS. If he doesn't have DRS, that's because he's made it past the Williams. So just incredible pace that we've got at the moment from the McLaren. And if there is indeed one more pit stop in this race onto those intermediate tyres, I think he's going to be the one with the best possible shout of a race win, because he will be confident in his abilities as he just throws his car into turn number 14 and, well, out of it. He somehow managed to gain on Pavlos in all that. 1.7 seconds is the gap. It's back up to 1.8, but it's jumping around with the range that he'll want it to be at this point. That was 1.7 seconds he gained on that last lap. And he's going to, if he gains another 1.7, he will be past the Williams. And I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, he's got incredible pace at the moment, does the McLaren, of course. I think provisional race victor at the moment, it is going to be Triscay, if you want to throw the flag out now. And actually, he's only on to that kind of 2-second gap. He's kind of neutralising that 2-second gap. Better than I think any of us would have thought, given what we knew Bella Fox was capable of. And also in the way Bella Fox, kind of dropped the hammer and pulled the pin, but that progress seems to have stalled in that quest of getting that gap up. Of course, it only needs to be 7 seconds to Triscay, provided no one else is within 3 of Triscay themselves. Of course, Paulos is dropping like a bit of a stone on those hard compound tyres and could become vulnerable to what was the midfield at one point earlier in this Grand Prix. But here comes the McLaren of Kingston then. Kingsman, DRS, slipstream, bit of overtake, back down to medium, mirror signal manoeuvre, back in onto the racing line. Job done for the McLaren, and he's back up into P3, and now he's going to have to try and set after the Ferrari of Triscay. He's got 2 seconds to make if he wants to get back within that 3-second window, and of course he needs to make sure he's within 10 of Bella Fox as well. That is the cards at play here in Shanghai. We're on lap 23 of 28, about 5 or 6 laps to go here in the opening round of WR Season 19 here for Console Tier 4. It's a fascinating finale we've got brewing. Whilst it may not be all-out action, wheel to wheel, we still have quite the gap battle to look forward to.
Yeah, with Kingsman just needing to gain that 1.6 seconds. Is he going to be able to do that in the next 5 laps? Probably so, but he may have pushed himself too hard and then he'll fall off. So it is brewing, it is tense around the Shanghai International Circuit, and all the crowd in the background, they look very tense, standing there, stock still, arms by their sides, just they've got no control over their limbs anymore. They're just captivated by the action. Not to say anything about EA's game design or crowd design, but they did better in EAFC. Anyway, Kingsman, the gap has stabilised between the McLaren and the Ferrari ahead, which will concern the McLaren. As further back, Mad Dogs and Duncan side by side, the leader of that battle is now going to be Mad Dogs, who's 2.3 seconds behind Pavlos, who's really struggling now on those hards. They're too worn for these race conditions. Actually, Kingsman might have had a problem in turn number 14, because now he's lost 6 tenths and it's increasing. So this could be that could have been a crucial moment in this Grand Prix for the McLaren. He was probably the best driver, or the driver in the best position to take victory in this race. At the moment, we could be seeing Triscay. We could be seeing Triscay in line for the first victory of the season, a full 25 points going home to the Ferrari garage.
Yeah, but Kingsman has already got that gap back down to 4.7. He only needs to get it to under 3. He's got just under 5 laps remaining, does the McLaren. Yeah, gap down to 4.5 now. So he's reeling it in. He just needs to make sure he keeps it clean. He could probably actually knock a... I mean, could he? Maybe we'll see. Could probably argue at the rate he's going, especially through, you know, sector 1 and 2. If he is struggling with that final sector a bit, he could probably maybe, you know, bring it down a touch, knock a tenth or two off. Doesn't have to go try to, you know, go and find more time. No need to, you know, push the limits, lose time. Also trying to find time that, you know, isn't there, you know, isn't within you. Because the rate he's catching, if I'm not mistaken, is going to be good enough. Meanwhile, Bram de Vissel up the inside once again into turn 14. How many times have we seen that one here today? Up the inside to turn 14. Mercedes and Alpine doing battle once again as we're about to sell lap 25 and 28. Here comes Duncan though, back to the outside, down the main pit straight into turn 1. And Duncan, oh hello, we've got Mad Dogs up the inside. It's a Mad Dog up the inside of Bram de Vissel into turn number 1. The Alpine though gets a bit squirrely, bit of contact, but all in all facing the right direction, and he'll have to go and try and make that move at another corner, maybe even on another lap. Looking at that gap, Kingsman's down to 4.2. It's getting closer. I don't think Trisky is going to have a problem keeping in range of Bellero Fox. I think Bellero Fox, with that 10 seconds, in fact, where would it drop him? If you were to throw the flag out now, it'd throw him even behind Palos, but I think Bellero Fox is going to get that gap out, so we'll drop him probably, come the end of this Grand Prix, down to P3. Which is not what we were expecting when we threw the flag out for qualifying about, I don't know, 40 minutes ago. Over that, nearly an hour ago now, that is.
Time flies when you're having fun. I also think that you're 2-1 up with that Mad Dogs joke. I've got a couple in the pipeline just in case. Just in case a couple of the drivers do anything, but we'll see about that. Yeah, the gap has come back down, by the way, between Kingsman and Trisket. It's back down to about 4.6 seconds, so what it was a couple of laps ago. Had he not made that error, it would have been about 4.2 by now, so it would have been a little bit more on the nose for Trisket. It would have been a little bit more risky, but at the moment, I didn't even mean to make that one. That was quite impressive. But it just comes naturally. But at the moment, it looks like the Ferrari is going to be on for his first victory. I think Bellero Fox.
Actually, really in the house.
He is. Yeah, he is. That's true. But yeah, I don't think Bellero Fox. I think he would drop to P4 currently. No, not anymore. I think he would have in the last lap, but not anymore. I think P3 is where he sits. As AMS Knight picks up a 3-second time penalty. That won't matter to him unless he makes an overtake, because he's 17, almost 18 seconds ahead of Apex Chaser in 11th. Apex Chaser being Trisket's teammate. So Trisket will bring home all of the points. He'll fly the flag for Ferrari. Kingsman will bring home all the points for McLaren, as Micromash finds himself outside of the points in Bellero Fox. His teammate Abe Gabadi did not turn up, so he will be flying the flag. Pavlos as well will be flying the flag for Williams, because his teammate is the other one that didn't turn up. We were supposed to have 19 drivers here tonight. We ended up with 17, and we, from the looks of things, are going to end up with 13 finishing this race, although I don't know if we count Bourbon, who's just been sat in AI mode. He's been desperately trying to get back in, but he's just been sat in AI mode as Bram de Vissel moves up into P5. At the moment, this is the battle for... It's a battle between constructors. It is a battle technically for P4, as they seem to have reeled in Pavlos. They've got DRS on him, and I'm sure this is going to be the battle that we're going to be able to focus on in the last couple of laps. Duncan right on the rear of Bram de Vissel. Mad Dogs right on the rear of Duncan, and he looks to try and get the exit. The two Alpines maybe scrapping away. Bram de Vissel with a big wobble on the exit, and Duncan unable to take advantage, but that psychological advantage is currently in the court, in the side of the court of the Alpines, with Junkie Angle 2.4 seconds off, unable to contribute to this battle as much as Bram de Vissel, his teammate, would have liked him to. Brown Vissel, by the way, who thought this race was tomorrow until about 2 hours before. So he's done pretty well to pull this performance out of the bag. And looking at his ERS, he's pretty much conserved. He's ready to push forward ahead of Pavlos, maybe even troubling Bellerofox in that P3 spot for that final podium place. So it could all be up in the air as now Bellerofox comes around turn number 14. We're almost at the end of this Grand Prix. Brandovis will not quite making gains on Pavlos until the DRS was opened, and then he made those gains. P4 goes to Brandovisel, and well, let's have a look. He needs to gain maybe 1.5 seconds, I think that is, on Bellerofox.
Don't think that's gonna happen.
It's unlikely, but he has conserved. He is ready to push, and it's just whether he's able to push more than the Haas is. But it is disappointing to see that Haas has it side by side between the Williams and the Alpine as they head through turn number 1. There's contact as Pavlos locks up, and through goes Mad Dogs. He's up into P6. Pavlos making the mistake at the crucial time. His tyres are absolutely shot, and he's around the outside of Mad Dogs as they head into the braking zone. But Mad Dogs just squeezing out the Williams, and Pavlos, who looked set to be maybe one of the podium contenders early on, has found no pace late on in this stint on these hard compound tyres. He now finds himself down in P7, and really not the weekend he would have wanted. He was one of the only drivers on the alternative strategy. He was the only one really competitively on the alternative strategy, one that clearly did not work. But as we have 3 corners remaining in the Grand Prix for the lead driver on track, Bellerofox has tried their very best to break away from Trisquet. They've managed to do it by 3.7 seconds, so not quite enough to get rid of that 10-second time penalty. But the Haas comes across the line, the first on-track winner of the season 19 Console Tier 4. But Trisquet comes across the line. He will be the first real winner of this season. Kingsman across the line in second. Bramner Vissel not quite close enough to Bellerofox. Duncan in fifth. Pavlos managed to get past Mad Dogs into 6th. Junkie Angle in 8th. Pepine in 9th. And AMS Knight, the last points finisher with Apex Chaser with 3 corners to go. Micromash just exiting Sector 2. And Bourbon Boy, well, he's just exited Sector 1. But Trisquet taking victory.
Yeah, solid drive for the Ferrari. In the end, was the man that didn't make the biggest mistake out of the 3. I'd love to know what happened to Kingsman in that pit stop phase. You know, he didn't pick up a penalty or anything like his Ferrari engine counterparts did at the front. But it all went wrong in the pit stop phase. You know, we saw it. He came out well off. He was, you know, in the midfield when he came out of the pit lane. So I have absolutely no idea what happened, if it was a wing change, if he mistimed the entry to the pit box, whether he'd gone wide into onto pit entry. No idea. And in the end, it is what cost him. And in the end, one of the most usually one of the most costly things you can do in league racing ended up being the least worst mistake you could make. It's just a classic, good old 3-second time penalty for track limits. In the end, was the less of 3 evils when in comparison to whatever happened in the pit lane. And obviously, Bellerofox's 10-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane didn't get it slowed down in time for pit entry. And yeah, he's paid the price for it, and it's a P3 finish for the pole man. And it is Trisquet in the Ferrari who takes the honours here in the opening round in Shanghai.
From the looks of things as well, Kingsman has sent a gif of Lewis Hamilton going off in the Chinese Grand Prix of 2007. So I think he may have struggled on pit entry just as Bellerofox did. But just to run you through the order, Trisquet takes victory, Kingsman in second, then it's Bellerofox, Bramner Vissel, Duncan, Pavlos, Mad Dogs, Junkie Angle, Pepine, and Knight, your final points finisher. Then it's Apex Chaser, Micromash, and Bourbon Boy, the final the final quote-unquote finisher. And then your retirements are Nico, Josh, and Snipes. Driver of the day?
Oof, good question. Drive of the day. Oh, that's a good question. I mean, I think yeah, you have to give it to Trisky. I mean, you know, was when you look at qualifying, an unexpected victor, and I guess also to keep it rolling one last time with the puns. It was risky with the car, but Triske's risk paid off. Whatever he did to that car, I have no idea. Look, it never looked settled all weekend, but whatever he did, it's worked, and he's now our championship leader. As we head to Austin, Texas next time out for next week. So yeah.
And as Mario Andretti said, if you're not on the edge, if you're feeling in control of the car, you're not going fast enough. And well, that was what Kinksman lived by tonight. That's what our race winner, Triske, lived by tonight, and I'm sure he's going to get so bored of us as we head through the season.
Yeah, we're gonna milk that one, aren't we?
Yeah, of course we are.
It's almost like we're contractually obliged to do so.
But anyway, we will save those for next week. Make sure to join us, not just for the puns, but for the action as well, as we will head to the Circuit of the Americas, to Austin, Texas, for the United States Grand Prix. But until next time, it is goodbye. don't look behind you. Happy